that we're ready. If anyone here would like to speak about an item on or off the agenda, you can fill out a slip up in the back and bring it up to this young lady to my left. And if you have a cell phone, could you please put it onto the silent mode or turn it off? And with that, we'll go right to our pledge. Mr. Hicks, would you please?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, could I get a roll call, please?
Chair Algauer,
Here.
Vice Chair Hicks.
Here.
Commissioner Beck, Commissioner Chester, Commissioner Higginson,
Here.
Commissioner Snodgrass. Here. Commissioner Bick. Thank you.
Okay, with that, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, there are, and I do want to note for the three commissioners that are not here, they did reach out to us ahead of time, and they did have other conflicts come up, including a health-related thing for a family member, so they do have excused absences. And then looking at the agenda, based upon the quorum needed for items number 1 and 2, understanding that Commissioner Higginson has a conflict with business associated with item number 2, neither items are able to move forward, and so they will be rescheduled for the first meeting in August as part of that packet. So items number 1 and 2 will not need to be moved on because there isn't a quorum of membership to vote on or to open the meeting for those items. Okay. So we get to proceed straight on to 3.
Okay, thank you, Ben. With that, is there any public comments?
No public comments for items that are not on the agenda.
All right, then let's go to the consent agenda, which would be our minutes from the June 7th meeting.
And as noted, there isn't a quorum of members to.
Yeah, I was just thinking there's no quorum to do that with, so we'll postpone that one, put that one on hold. And then we'll just move to what, item number 3?
Yep, and that's a public hearing, so we'll need to open up the public hearing for that.
Oh, right.
And then as part of that, starting the public hearing, is there any ex parte disclosures that any commissioners have for number 3?
I had one with Stacy Chester. She wasn't sure where this project was located, so it was just to clarify for her.
Okay.
Anyone else? Seeing none, and I guess we can move to that agenda number 3 on our agenda, which is number 22-120. It's a CUP and a use permit and an architectural review.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman Algauer and Planning Commissioners. This is case number 22-120, which includes a conditional use permit, the architectural review, and a variance for a phased commercial complex that would include a couple of different structures as a part of a phase 1 and phase 2 that I'll get into on the next few slides, as well as a major variance request to permit a 46-foot tall freestanding sign with 311 square feet of sign area. So the project will be located within an area that spans 3 contiguous parcels and totals 3.17 acres. The zoning is service commercial, and existing improvements on the property include 3 legal non-conforming residential structures as well as a garage, which are proposed to be demolished as a part of the construction of the project today. To the south of the site is the freeway corridor specific plan limits, boundary limits, which is currently going through a city-initiated specific plan update process right now. And then the freeway gateway district, which is highlighted in our citywide design guidelines, is to the west. Surrounding development includes other legal non-conforming single-family residences, which means that they were constructed prior to the city incorporation and the establishment of the current zoning standards. It should be noted that the applicant also intends to either merge the lots as a part of the development to create a unified kind of single commercial site, or may pursue a lot line adjustment to separate the individual building pads. So as a part of the conditional use permit, 5 commercial buildings are proposed, which include a car wash, a gas station, a convenience store, a drive-through restaurant, and then a retail and office building. And the municipal code permits all of these uses in the CS land use district, subject to the approval of a conditional use permit. City Council had previously considered a potential moratorium on the fuel station and gas car wash uses, but ultimately decided to not pursue such a restriction. So a phasing exhibit is presented on the screen, highlighting the phase 1 and phase 2 components of the development. Phase 1 would comprise of the western portion of the site and would include a 4,988 square foot gas station that would have 8 stations and 16 individual pumps, 4,335 square foot convenience store, a 2,866 square foot drive-through car wash, and then as well 20 EV Tesla charging spaces, which would include solar canopies. Phase 2 would be on the eastern portion of the site, and that would include the drive-through restaurant, proposed as 2,105 square feet. There is no named tenant at this time, as well as a 5,000 square foot office and retail building that would have the capacity for 4 tenants. As a part of each phase, engineering associated improvements such as frontage improvements and then any WQMP requirements would also be constructed. So the development code compliance chart is before you on the screen and was included in the agenda report, and some key elements that I wanted to highlight include the building and lot coverage, in that this site is only required to have 15% landscaping. However, there's actually 24% of the site proposed to be landscaped. And then additionally, in regards to parking, there are 66 proposed general parking spaces, which do not include the 20 EV spaces discussed on the previous slide, which surpasses the minimum required 58 for these respective land uses, as the municipal code requires 1 space per every 250 square feet of general floor area for each of the different uses: car wash, convenience store, drive-through restaurant, and retail office. So this site complies with the Yucaipa Municipal Code parking requirements. As a part of the application, a variance was also submitted to increase the maximum height of a proposed freestanding sign for the development from 25 feet to 46 feet, and to increase the maximum allowable sign area from 200 square feet to 311 square feet, with really the goal for this sign to be able to be perceived as a freeway-oriented sign, given the proximity of this project site to the I-10 and the freeway gateway district area. So a flag test was conducted on January 24th, 2023, and some exhibits before you on the screen and included in the agenda report show that that added height is required in order for the sign to have visibility from the eastbound off-ramp and the high point of Oakland Road. Some unique circumstances of this property relative to geographical constraints include that the Oakland Road frontage of the site is at a higher grade than the proposed development, which generally slopes east towards the site, and then that the larger signage would allow for competition with the existing development in the area, including the Arco gas station, which has visibility from the kind of high point of Oakland Road. And the applicant has also proposed to include a 36 square foot logo area for the city of Yucaipa to help create kind of a gateway monument feature when entering and exiting the city limits. It should be noted that all of their building signs associated with the future structures would be permitted separately through the sign registration process. The applicant also submitted an architecture review as a part of the application, and the elevations of the front of the structures for phase 1 and phase 2 are presented, really highlighting that the frontage of this area, of this site, it borders Oakland Road, which is a scenic corridor within the city, so there's particular emphasis on enhanced design elements, which nod towards a craftsman and farmhouse influence seen through faux barn door accents, as well as windows with thick black trim and crosshatch detailing. All buildings will generally consist of vertical ribbed metal siding in the color Manor Red, and the buildings will have a metal roof in the color Woodland Gray. There's also lap siding accents and some veneer at the base of the building too. So again, related to landscaping, there is that extra emphasis along Oak Glen Road. There's 20-foot proposed gentle sloping buffer area along the front screening of the parking areas, and this would include mature trees and shrubs. And then, as pointed out earlier, there's quite a bit of landscaping on the 3-acre site, and that includes a 12,224 square foot proposed detention basin, which would be formally evaluated through the submittal of a water quality management plan as construction drawings are prepared and the applicant works through the building permitting process. As typical of other projects, the landscaping will be formally reviewed by the city's contract landscape architect, again, through that construction phase. Some site photos are on the screen. Project notices were sent and several calls were received requesting location confirmation. And then 4 responses were received highlighting concerns related to traffic congestion on Oak Glen Road, noise from the car wash, devaluing of property values, and then fear of increased crime. It should be noted that some conditions of approval are included with some of these considerations in mind. For example, condition of approval number 116 highlights recommendations from the traffic report to be implemented prior to occupancy of the site, which include channelizers along Oak Glen Road and right turn only lanes at the exit of both driveways, as well as COA number 77, which requires a 10-foot sound wall on the western portion of the site per a noise study that was submitted and reviewed. As well, all properties within this vicinity are legal non-conforming, meaning that they were grandfathered into their existing use, which for the most part are single-family residences. So the long-range expectation is that there is commercial development within this portion of the city. And then a final COA is included that requires the applicant to install video surveillance cameras at the site. From a perspective of environmental review, the project qualifies for a Class 32 exemption as infill development, as well as Class 5 and Class 11 exemption for the variance being a minor accessory structure to the general development at the site. Development impact fees will be owed for the new development, which are estimated to be approximately $162,323, and that's based on the 2022-2023 fee schedule on the 3.17 acres with all of the net square footage of development included. It should be noted that the ultimate development impact fees are to be determined when permits are issued, so that may slightly adjust. It's staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and review, and if considered acceptable, the variance request and the architectural design, adopt the findings for the variance and the conditional use permit, as well as the categorical exemptions discussed, and direct staff to file a notice of exemption. The applicant is here and is available to answer any questions, as well as staff.
Okay, any of the commissioners have questions for staff at this time?
I do, but I can wait until we
Okay,
close
with
the
the
hearing and we
applicant
have the
comes up.
discussion.
So I have a question on the west side of this project. That's a residential home, am I correct?
Yeah, there is the existing residential home.
Okay, what
adjacent.
is the fencing going to be between their property and that residential?
So that condition of approval number 77 would require that there's a 10-foot wall installed as the separating property line delineator there to reduce noise from the car wash onto the adjacent property.
So that would be a block wall,
It would be a block wall.
right? And then the other question I have, there's 2 entrances, as you pointed out, driveways entering the property. Now, if you're heading northbound or on Oak Glen Road, and you're gonna turn left into that facility, is there gonna be a turn lane for that set up, or?
Yes, so they completed a queuing study and a traffic analysis. As part of that, there will be a left turn pocket on the most easterly driveway approach. They actually will not be able to turn left into that western driveway approach. They're going to be putting delineators, a physical barrier, so all traffic will be directed onto that further northeast driveway when they're traveling northeast on Oakland Road. As for the other direction, or coming out of it, it's a right turn only, so they will not be able to cross that median. They can only turn right from the development.
Okay, those are my questions. I'm good.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Jake.
Could you go back to the previous one that shows the overall site? Yeah. So the lots that are included in this are all touched by the star, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you have the corner lot and then the one-off corner lot that still remain.
Yeah, there's, I'll use my laser pointer to
Yeah.
highlight. Is it not? Oh, okay.
There it is.
So
Three parcels.
this property, and this property.
Okay.
None of the corner lots are included.
Right, okay. Thank you.
I just have one question in engineering. So you talked about delineators, so explain to me a little bit about what the city is requiring in the way of delineators, because we talk about the direction in prohibiting like a left turn. This is a very busy street, and I travel it a lot. So from a standpoint of engineering, are we creating concrete kind of turn lanes, or are these more of a visual type turn?
No, I don't believe they will be concrete because that's a crash. They have to be crash
No,
rated.
I get it, so that's what I want to clarify.
So I think the best example would be, I believe there are delineators down at Yucaipa Boulevard on the on-ramp, those kind of long sort of stick delineators. They keep traffic from going through them, but should there be an accident or something, they're crash rated so that they wouldn't cause damage to vehicles. I think the idea was to keep traffic moving as much as possible, and so that's why they've limited the left turn onto the single driveway approach.
Okay. Was there some consideration of, obviously these are standard driveways that were indicated on the plans, as far as really emphasizing a right turn only? Does the city have some kind of engineering design that would encourage a right turn only from a driveway? And barriers are barriers. You know, human nature says we're going to go left if the traffic and then people do that. So I was just looking at the possibility of trying to really encourage a right turn, because this is, again, is a very
Sure.
busy street. I'm concerned about the potential. This is it's a great development, but obviously it's a very busy street that it's exiting onto.
So the city's current commercial driveway approach standard is what they're proposing here.
Okay.
However, I think the city would be open if the developer was interested in doing, I think it's called like a pork chop. It would be that small kind of concrete island.
I think that's what I was looking at.
Yeah, and
it
so-
really just kind of encourages the public to go right.
Right.
And again, I look at human nature, and probably I've been guilty of this too. So I'm going to go left because it's
Right, there's
there.
no traffic. It looks like
There's
no
no
one's coming.
traffic.
Yeah.
So
So I think those delineators on definitely that southwest driveway approach in the median will kind of reduce that risk.
Okay.
As for that northern eastern driveway, it's outside of city standards, so it would have to be something that would have to be approved by the city engineer. But I think that that's something, should the developer want to pursue that, just to encourage that right through, or if the commission wanted to pursue that, that's something we would definitely be open to review and see if that would be agreeable.
And I appreciate that. So, and that was kind of my concern.
Yeah.
My other concern was, obviously, this isn't a residential, it's an old residential, very established residential neighborhood. As far as lighting and the activity that these facilities bring forward, is consideration of light pollution and its light, transference to other properties. Has that been considered in the process?
Yeah, so I think one, as part of the standard conditions of approval and the city's development code provisions, the transfer of light from a commercial property onto a residential lot There is a set standard that the city does have for that in terms of foot candles. So we have gone out in the past when it comes to the lights to make sure that they're aimed directly, and I'll sit out there with a light meeting reader. I think with the site design, if Maddie can pull up the site plan itself, based on the site design that they have and the kind of orientation with that bio-retention area and some of the greater landscape setback along the rear, that's going to help further kind of diffuse any light issues. But certainly when they go through and submit the building plans for the lighting standards, show the photometric, that's going to show that they don't have that light trespass occurring there. And then we certainly will, I've gone to backyards before to make sure that they, once this is installed, it's done correctly as well.
Yeah, and thank you, Ben. I just want to bring that up just in case public comment brings that up, so thank you.
Okay, with that, is the applicant or a representative here? Like to say something? Speak? And if you could just give us your name and address for our records, please, sir?
Hello, I'm Chris Saba. I'm the developer for this project. Been working with City of Yucaipa for a while. My address is 30707 Sunset Drive in Redlands. I was born and raised here in Redlands. Grew up in a gas station in Yucaipa on Bryant, the old 76. My dad owned that, and that's where we kind of grew up. And so now that my brother and I and our partners are developing here, it's kind of exciting, and it's a long time coming, a lot of work, but we're finally here. So Maddie explained the project, I think, pretty good. It's the gas station and the car wash are the first phase for us. We're developing the gas station ourselves, and we're trying to lease out the rest of the retail and bring in good brands and good names to Yucaipa for the drive-through. We're looking for some good food brands, and we've been approached, but we're kind of being picky on who we're getting. And same for the retail area, for the 5,000 square foot retail. We're looking for some good names for Yucaipa, something that's a little different and that can bring good food or good whatever it is to the city. So any questions for me or?
Okay, any commissioners have questions for us?
Thank you, Chris. Have you looked at placing this sign closer to the freeway rather than being at 46 feet tall back inside there? Is there any place out there that it could be placed?
The further back we go on the property, the slope is greater.
No, I mean move the sign from where you're, basically your property onto a property closer to the freeway.
I don't think that's allowed to advertise on somebody else's property, is it?
Yeah, so
Is there any spot out there that it could be placed?
So as part of the on-premises signs, it has to be on the subject property. If it's located advertising for a business outside of that site, then it's considered as a billboard, and so the city does have a prohibition on any new billboard constructions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So certainly if there was another kind of unifying development that took over that hard corner, then yeah, that could certainly be the place, but I think it's two separate property owners, and so I don't know if that's something that was able to move forward. I'm certainly not at this time.
Yeah, it would be nice though, if we can get it a little lower and
Good
closer
idea.
up, but.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have any public comments?
We have two.
First, we have David Masoni? No, Massengill.
Just state your name and address for us, please, sir.
Sure. Well, do you want my resident address or my rental address for this property?
Yeah, either one.
Okay, great. David Massengill, 32664 Fairmont. We call it Fairmont Lane, not street, the old timers. So that is a rental property for me, along with my partner, Ronald Mitchell. We're both lifelong residents of Yucaipa. We already have 9 car washes in Yucaipa. We have plenty of car washes. We have plenty of pizza and Mexican food restaurants too. We don't need any more of those. Other variances the city's made to I mean, not to be too sarcastic, but that giant white fleet vehicle sitting down there surrounded by weeds, you know, we don't need more variances, let alone my tenants don't need to look at that sign. It's interesting that you've included a soundproof wall on the west side, but not the north side where most of the houses are. That's unacceptable. If you're gonna do this project, then you need to put a 10-foot soundproof wall all along the whole north side. It doesn't make any sense to me. I oppose the project. Essentially, you're chopping up, if we go back to the other map, you're chopping up. I'm very pro-growth. In fact, I love growth in the city. I'm fine with that. I actually bought this property for the cash flow, but hopefully that it would be bought by someone like this with eminent domain. But you guys are sitting there chopping it up and actually taking away the opportunity for the rest of us that bought properties down there for that exact reason. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Jerry Teal.
Just state your name and address. Where's Jerry?
Jerry Teal, 32594 Fairmont Lane. This is just going to be another ARCO that has never been finished yet. It's an unsightly thing. We've been dealing with it for now probably 3 years. I've been on Fairmont Lane for 25 years. Never have I ever had anything stolen from my property, taken, vandalized, anything. Since ARCO came in, 5 times. I don't see any way around all this foot traffic that we're getting now. We had, the Angels Roadhouse was down there, never had an issue. I can't even think of the other ones that were down there. The old Tenderfoot, never had an issue. Ever since the ARCO came in, we've had issues left and right with homeless, just people just wandering up and down the street for no reason. I pretty much take care of the street. I grade all the street myself. I've paid for it for the last 15, 20 years, keeping it nice so for all the residents down there. The tenant or the resident across the street from me just put in a gorgeous backyard that backs right up to this thing. It's just going to be a sightly nuisance. The car wash at ARCO wakes me up at night. It has a buzzer that goes off that tells when to move forward, I believe is what happens. There's a vacuum or a blower in there that basically could rattle the house. It's just getting ridiculous. So I don't see, even with the 10-foot wall, we're gonna hear the heck out of this thing. So I really oppose what's going to happen here. If they could move it somewhere else where they're not in the middle of Oak Glen Road on that turn that accidents happen on already as it is leaving 13th Street, I see a real issue here. And hopefully they can move it either east to where there's a whole bunch of properties that they can actually, at the end of Colorado, put in a a stoplight, just to slow the people down already that are going too fast. So if it could be moved to a different location, it'd be way better than what they're trying to do now. So hopefully we think about this a little bit harder. It's just really, the one there, it's already there, is a nuisance. So I just really oppose. All the other neighbors that I've been talking to, same aspect.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have any more? Okay, with that, would applicant like to do a rebuttal on some of those?
Hi, so I understand the concerns 100%. The car wash, it's not going to be open late. Our car wash will have hours. I think it's in the noise study. I don't know if it's in the noise study or not, but I think it's up to 7 o'clock or whatever it is, that our car wash will be shut down after that. It's not going to be from 7 to 8 in the morning or 7 to 7. And you know, chopping up, to move a development, it's not easy. When you purchase these properties, it's purchased with everything you got, with any way you can, with the rental properties on them to get, you know, it's difficult to purchase them, and chopping them up is just part of development. It's hard to develop sometimes huge properties. You chop them up. And this whole line is gonna become commercial eventually. The corner is set to become commercial next to us. We're putting the sound wall. There's a plan to be putting another fast food or some type of building there in the corner. And this is commercial, legal, non-conforming residence. So it is a commercial property. I know there's residents on there from when it was San Bernardino County way back, and that's, but this is considered the freeway corridor and commercial property. So we're just doing what's conforming in with the city of Yucaipa. So.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Can I ask Chris a question?
Go ahead.
Just looking at the site plan, your inlet on the car wash is at closest to the street, correct?
Yes,
And the outlet's on the backside?
yes,
So the points made is the blowers off the car wash, the dryers?
yes.
Are on that end. And
Yes.
so that's facing those properties to the rear. What's your proposed or planned fence along that rear section?
The rear
north?
section, when we did the when we did the noise study, the noise, I mean, because it's pushed back so far, that's a pretty big distance. The noise doesn't, I mean, there's like this graph thing and all that, and it doesn't reach to that point. So I don't know if we have, is there a block wall, Maddie, on that back end?
It's vinyl proposed on the northern end.
It's vinyl? Okay. So,
Well, and just on a personal level,
Yeah,
the blowers, whether they meet the threshold of noise pollution, it's something that's constant. And then along with the vacuums, I don't see where the vacuums are proposed to be.
it's in front of, those parking spots in front of the car wash
Front of it.
are vacuum.
So,
You know, we are, to be honest, we are, there might be a redesign eventually of that car wash to kind of make it much smaller and make it connected, or just 86 it completely.
yeah.
There's talks with that with Ben. We're not there yet, but the city has been pushing us.
Would you be opposed to putting a sound wall on the back, on the north property?
No, we wouldn't be.
It's a
We're
difficult.
really open to working with,
That would be my question, too.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's always a difficult thing with the conforming use when you have existing residents, so.
Sure.
Everything you can do to lighten this would be
sure. I know.
all the way around. And not only for that, for ingress, egress to those properties, off your property for transient and, you know,
We can add a sound wall. We can continue the sound wall, you know, a good portion to the back end at least, so it can block off some of.
well, and that's, you know, I know it's phase two, but the drive-through too, you know, after a while, welcome to Taco Bell, what would you like?
Absolutely.
And you hear that repeatedly all
Yeah.
day long on Saturday and Sunday, you know, when you're trying. So
Okay.
I would
So-
ask you consider those items.
Sure. And that's absolutely fine. We're okay with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, sure.
I'm the engineer on the project, also part of him, so for more of the technical aspect.
Did we get your name? I'm sorry. Your name.
I'm Zaid Afnan. I live in Corona.
And what's the company? I'm sorry.
D&J Construction and
D&J
Engineering.
Construction, okay.
Yeah. So part of the noise study that we perform, we have special blowers. So for example, the Arco, they use the typical car wash blowers. When we were designing the project and part of the noise study, we looked at the ordinances in Yucaipa for residential neighborhoods, and those were the thresholds we were trying to reach. So I wish I could show the study on the screen, but there are silent blowers, and those are the blowers actually quoted in the study to be used. We're not allowed to use the typical blowers that's you would find at the Arco. We have silent blowers, silent equipment They all are muffled sounds. So when they came and did the study, we performed in 3 locations. We set up devices. And actually, the sound that's currently there from all the traffic dissipated the sound of the car wash. The only concern was the property next to us, the one closer to 14th Street. Yeah, and where we're putting the block wall, and even there, the sound from the muffled sounds, it was very close. But we put the block wall there, and we know that from just the development community that there is a development going there in the next couple of years. So
And I'm sure that's true once you get, I'm more concerned honestly about the houses to the rear. And it's not so much that you don't meet the threshold that you're trying to achieve with your sound study. It's just the repetition of that day after day after day that's hard on residents. And will cause more problems. And I understand the blowers are much lower noise, I understand. But the problems you end up with is the guy who's out there vacuuming his car with his stereo kicked all the way up at 11 o'clock at night.
And that's why we're gonna be closed.
Well, you might close, but you're not gonna turn off the vacuums. The car wash might be closed. And whether he's actually using the car wash or just on the site, just because of the residents, I just ask that you really consider some type of sound wall to the rear. You know, from strictly a neighborly type thing as far as.
Yeah, definitely. We wanna keep the community happy, so we're not here.
I think
to
you'll
make
have a
it-
lot less resistance to it if you'll work on that. Because again, you didn't study the drive-through, and that's one of the things with that drive-through that you have proposed right there. It's even closer to the residents, and the speakers are facing that way, and so you hear the girl every time somebody, or the person at working the drive-through, you know, whether it's hi, welcome to McDonald's or Jack in the Box or wherever it is, and you hear that all day long, Saturday and Sunday.
I agree.
You know, I just think that's a neighborly thing when you're.
Sure.
Unfortunately, you're the first development in that area, so I think it's important to try to mitigate as much of that as you can.
No, that will be for sure. We don't mind, for first phase, we can wrap around the 10-foot wall.
Yeah.
At least, at least past the basin or something, just to make sure that it covers. And then the second, maybe we can run the wall across the whole thing by phase 2.
Yeah,
Just have
I know it's an expense over.
Yeah, but, it's okay.
I think you'll end up with, less opposition
And we want our neighbors to
support.
come to us as well, so.
Of course,
If we make them a
you
little
know.
bit happier, maybe, maybe you guys can come. But, there was another question, I think?
No, and I concur with Commissioner Hicks on that as far as continuing it, and this is going to be a start to future development along that corridor. And again, I am extremely concerned about traffic on this and obviously the impact of that. So you guys are setting a precedence, whatever the corner lot, I'm not sure what's gonna happen with the corner lot, because, but really what we're putting on you is a cost, but I think it sets a precedence for the city to set the standard for future development, and making sure we consider the neighbors in a residential area to the north and even along that other corridor. So I appreciate your willingness to consider that.
Sure.
And obviously be a good neighbor. Businesses and car washes, I think we all get our car washed, so.
Yeah.
But really, I appreciate the fact that you clarified the quality of the vacuums and the blowers. Car washes are noisy, and
Yeah.
so the
No
fact
matter
that
what,
you're
it's
stepping
gonna
up
make-
to make sure those are high quality or of state of the art is in respect to neighbors. My question was hours of operation, and you clarified that that's 7 or 8 o'clock. The last thing I want to hear as a neighbor at 9 o'clock at night is these blowers going off.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's a condition and approval, Ben, as far as hours of operation. Have they clarified that in their?
So it is listed in the noise study, those parameters, but I'll have to double check if they are listed officially in the conditions. If not, we can certainly, as part of the motion of Planning Commission, is to, one, include the condition about the block wall wrapping around further, as well as the hours of operation for the car wash, that all operations, including the use of the vacuums, would cease at 7 o'clock at night. And it sounds like the applicant's amenable to
I think
that.
most car washes are doing that right now. So this is
By
not
8
just a
o'clock
self-service, this is something that is controlled and monitored as a car wash.
Yeah, and on one of the council's point, the vacuums would close with the full car wash. So if car
Okay.
wash is closed, vacuums are closed as well.
Okay.
And it's usually from like 7 a.m. to 8
Okay.
p.m. because summertime is like,
Yeah.
it's light till 8. So we're completely okay with that. And again, adding the condition for the wall, we're okay with that as well.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Ben, there's no problem.
I have one question for staff, probably more than, but since it's not a corner lot and the traffic that Commissioner Hazen was talking about, is there any chance of, when that corner is developed, of having reciprocal easement through there for access that would allow?
Completely open to that.
Yeah, I know they would be open to that for sure.
Yeah.
But it would sure help the traffic flow in and out of those properties.
Absolutely.
And I would just say the ingress to the car wash is all that would really be in the way. You'd kick that back a little bit if you left it in the same place. But is that even a possibility?
I think doing those related site improvements is certainly something that can come through with that, with whoever the developer is for that. I imagine there probably is some value for that developer to provide that as well, because then you would have access for them that would be a little bit more to city standard along Oakland Road,
Right.
and then both would have exit and access along 14th Street. And so I think capturing that, there's a market demand that I think if a developer is savvy enough, they would want to do something like that as well. But certainly right now, you know, they don't own that property or retain the rights. And so, but I think it's for us, if someone proposed that and they work through something, that would be reflected on that entitlement. But yeah, I don't see.
So
any
the city can't make that a condition of their approval then? The only reason I ask is, you know, one, it'd be an advantage to those corner lots for ingress, egress, like you said, off Oak Glen Road, which that property is so close to the corner, I doubt they could get even a turn in there, could they? They might get a right turn only, they're definitely not gonna left turn. And it's gonna be from the light in 14th Street, so.
So I don't know if there would be the ability to do a condition that requires them to do that, but there could be maybe a more open-ended question that as a developer, they work in good faith to perhaps provide Oakland Road and reciprocal access, you know, if feasible or something like that. But without knowing what that development is or kind of those limitations, I think we're all hopeful, and it sounds like that would be a good idea for them as well, and whoever the buyer or whoever the developer is. But until we kind of know those specificities,
That's not really anything that would affect us here, but if they modified that site plan a little bit for the, you know, with the hope that you might be able to talk the guy in the corner into a reciprocal.
I think we know the developer anyways. Yeah.
You know that.
You know, my partner made a good point. A 10-foot wall might be unsightly for the neighbors in the back. Do we want to make sure they want 10 feet, not 6 feet? Do we want to make sure?
I think they'd be much happier with the 10.
Just put it, okay.
The two behind you are both going like
Okay,
this.
well then there we go.
No, we know the cost.
I work on a lot of,
Yeah,
Okay.
but I would say, you know, especially since your property slopes that direction.
So it should be, okay. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
Could start breaking ground.
Right. Okay, go ahead. We have another question here.
Just from an engineering standpoint, from the street improvements, as far as what's going to happen, because obviously when we develop properties that are kind of in between one development and others, what's the proposed build out for the right of way on that?
So the city actually has street improvement plans designed for this segment of Oakland Road.
Okay.
And this project's been conditioned to match those street improvement plans. So I believe that is a project that is already reflected in our CIP. I'm not sure on the timeline of that, but it will have as Maddie said, that wider kind of crosswalk or sidewalk area that you see a little bit north on Oakland Road. And so it's going to be two city street design standards.
Okay.
What is the concern?
Well, the concern is obviously when we transition and looking at future right-of-ways and sidewalks and everything else, that all of a sudden we have a corner lot that's not developed, that we've got this transitional curb and whatever. So again, I'm more concerned about not creating more hazards when we develop a
Sure.
property in the middle of a future development. So as long as engineering is addressing that, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the worst case scenario is this gets done before the city is able to do improvements. And what you actually are creating is almost like a little right turn pocket.
Right.
So that actually can be beneficial. But we will make sure if there is this sort of transition that there, is either a well delineated transitional berm, and that might include some striping just in the interim to kind of encourage those cars not to hit any physical barrier that's there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Into the traffic comment, especially since it was brought up in public comment about a signal at Colorado, that is actually in the plans. It's in the capital improvement plan. I believe the signal has been ordered or is in progress, but that is something that, in terms of breaking up the traffic flow as well, that is something that is on the immediate horizon.
Yeah, so at Colorado and Oakland Road, there is a signal that will be going in the very near future.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Again, that is just a very busy arterial. So thank you for clarifying.
That was part of what we approved like a year and a half ago, wasn't it, for the plan for, it extends all the way from Colorado across the freeway to the bridge at Oak Glen Road, right? And that was part of the funding that was already in place, and that came through here for approval.
Yeah, so the capital improvement plan that I think you guys reviewed last year included that, and then, so that is in motion as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Just the last thing, so if we 86 the car wash, if we get rid of the car wash, are we okay on the wall and not doing it?
I think what we're looking at is, if you put the 10-foot wall, I think, and with you working your best effort to get low sounding or noisy, I mean, it's a business. We don't want to intrude on your business, not while we're here. We're trying to keep everything on above board here and work with both parties. And I think that 10-foot wall would alleviate a majority of the problems. And I think, for us to tell you, no, don't do the car wash, I don't think that's, where I would want you to do. If you do the 10-foot wall, I think it's a good project, and I think it'd be a good project for the city.
Okay, thank you.
I have one thought, though. With your landscape area in the rear, is there enough room to build 4 foot of berm and a 6-foot wall on it, Ben?
I do think that's probably feasible. I do want to note as well, the landscape architecture plans had identified a 6-foot wall along the perimeter anyways, and so.
Oh, we did have a 6-foot wall anyway.
Yeah, so I think
we'll-
it's just
But
transition.
instead of vinyl to go to block, and then if you could increase the swale along the rear,
Got it.
and then you get down to the 6-foot wall that you're trying to achieve. They get the 10-foot buffer, you go to block instead of vinyl, and so you don't have the maintenance problems long-term that.
Sure.
Yeah, and then the landscaping, again, Steve from the city on the landscape architect will look at that, but I think we should, boost up the trees back there to help.
Sure, we have plenty of landscape anyways. so we
Yeah.
can-
Part of the landscaping was part of the sound study. So
Sure.
our sound engineer was using certain landscaping to absorb the sound, and that's why we had the 6-foot wall with the landscape. So
Right.
the 6-foot wall would be great for us in the back.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's the perception of just the activity, whether you do the car wash or not, it's a busy complex. You've got gas station, you've got retail, you've got fast food. Whether you do the car wash or not, it's still kind of a separation from the residential neighborhood. And I think that's what the citizens are concerned about. So going to a 10-foot wall whether you do the car wash or not, and again, car washes are profitable. And again, we're not here to say you can't develop the property the way you want to. Again, we're just trying to be sensitive to the adjacent neighborhoods. And so from the standpoint, if you nix the car wash, you're here for approval of your whole complex. That's what we're
Yeah, your
looking at.
project.
It's your project. And whether you decide to nix it or not, that's up to you. We're looking at the project from the standpoint of what you presented to this commission.
Fair enough.
And so from the standpoint of reflecting what's being done, I agree with Commissioner Algauer and Commissioner Hicks. This is a great project. So I think it's a good project, but also we want to be sensitive as a commission to the surrounding neighborhood.
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay.
We want you to be busy and profitable.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
it helps the city, it helps us.
It
Hopefully we
does.
can grow more and do more, so
So
yeah.
I think it's important just to do what we can to make it palatable for the neighbors.
Fair enough.
And,
Donna, you had something?
Yeah, I'm going back to the aesthetics and that sign. I think it's a great project. The project's approved, we just gotta, is there any way to redesign that sign? This is the second major variance we've had in a row for signs. So the city ordinances and development codes are behind the times right now, but we're piecemealing this. And this project is outside both the limits for the freeway corridor, the gateway, and the specific plan. So you're sitting right outside both of those corridors and asking for a major variance. And aesthetically, I'm looking at the picture, and this is starting to look like some of the entrances going into Moreno Valley, which is not what I had pictured, with La Quinta out front and all those busy buildings out front. Is there any way we can redesign that sign? But more importantly, the city's got to update the ordinances and development code for signage. Is there enough time to do that? I mean, this sign isn't going in tomorrow. So is there enough time to talk about that before?
The reason we did the sign where it is and how high it is because if you're driving, if you exit Oak Glen, it's elevated, that bridge, than the rest of the properties. And if you look at AMPM's sign to where our sign's gonna be, it's pretty much, Maddie, it was pretty much almost even. Do we have a picture of that? Yeah, that's the angle on that.
I understand why. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
and I'm looking at the pictures, and it's getting busier and busier. That's why I asked if there was another place, like one of the signs on the freeway that says fuel this way with the Chevron logo on that sign on the freeway, and then your sign can be much lower and it can be seen once you get past that intersection. Rather than this enormous standalone sign. And just personally, this is not what I envision as the Yucaipa Gateway anyway. So, like I said, it's aesthetics. I know the reason why. It's a major variance, and if we could redesign that and make it look less I don't even know what the words to use. I just don't like, this whole intersection is starting to become kind of a monster.
So one of the reasons for the sign, other than aesthetics and visibility, is as a developer, when you approach brands, especially corporate big brands, they have requirements like for the sign. So if you don't have a certain square footage, for instance, example Starbucks, they won't even consider your sign. So if you don't have these freestanding signs, the developments that you're gonna get are gonna be laundry mats, nail salons, and Mexican food restaurants. And we heard that we don't want that here. So that's a big thing. If you eliminate the sign,
We don't
you're
want
gonna,
car washes either, so.
yeah, but I mean, if you eliminate the sign, we're not gonna be able to get any real good brands to come into Yucaipa.
And
So
I didn't say
that's the big
eliminate
thing.
it. Can you redesign it to make it
I mean, we could redesign
less
the
harsh
aesthetic.
coming into the
We
city?
could redesign the aesthetics of it, however the city would like, but it's what's important to us is the height and the square footage. Because trust us, we don't want the sign, it's an added cost to the developer. But you're not gonna get corporate tenants if you don't have the certain sign.
I feel like the sign is at least a little designed, I mean, a little differently than other signs. We tried to do a little, I mean, some.
If I may ask for direction from Commissioner Snodgrass, is the issue the height of the sign in particular, or just more the architectural detailing around the signage that's provided? So the wood detailing and some of those stuff, is that were?
It's basically the height of the sign, and I know why it has to be that tall, but can we get creative for something different? And I agree with everything that the other commissioners said tonight, and they answered everything that I had on my mind too, so that's why I just sat here and let them talk, because they're smarter than me. But the aesthetics of this, and especially in Yucaipa, this is outside both of those corridors. So now we're inching over into another area. We're pushing that, and now we've got a second major variance, 2 commission meetings in a row. So we're piecemealing this, and we need some more cohesiveness in what Yucaipa. So I think we need to do the sign ordinances before we approve. I would move the thing minus the sign tonight. Everything else I'm in agreement with, and it looks wonderful. I am concerned about the noise from the car wash, but I think looking at this, it's at the same level as an office space, or where's that list?
And the sign is within
Like
our guidelines, all
normal
right?
conversation slash, busy office is the DBA for the noise. So it's just, that sign is just bugging me.
Yeah, so I know you had talked about the sign ordinance, certainly among other elements of our development code. It is a pretty antiquated code, and so it does need to be kind of relooked at, especially as things have changed. The city has issued an RFP for a comprehensive development code update to start looking at that. Some of it's, based on formatting and just kind of the piecemeal that's happened and cleaning that stuff up. Same with the sign code. And so we did include that as an optional item for that update, is to look at the sign code as well, since there's a number of other things that do need to be addressed following different case laws that have happened. In terms of changing some of the allowances in the sign code, that is something that is identified that we probably will have to have some discussion. It isn't an easy discussion. There's a lot of kind of perspectives that come onto it, and so if we're kind of looking at a timeline, that full update and meeting those kind of stuff and making whatever those policy level changes are probably will be a little bit longer than they'll be ready to put tenants in place for that, just because there's a lot of public outreach that's needed with the community, as well as different businesses understanding those different corporate tenant requirements, so that when we're designing that sign code, we kind of have those specifications kind of understood and know what those trade-offs are.
I hear you. And I was not opposed to the La Quinta variance because it's proportional to the building that it's on. But this is a standalone sign, and to me, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So,
I have just a couple of questions. The sign's 46, what's the building height?
That's a good question. I think it's 32, 33. How big is the building?
I think it was like probably 25.
Good evening, Planning Commissioner, Chairman Allgaier, and members of the commission. Brad Robertson, Project Manager. The actual height allowed here for the buildings is 35 feet.
Right.
Our tallest building is 27 feet.
27.
And I just wanted to point out, if you see this, the relationship between the palm trees on our site there and the sign, some of these trees are actually in the 40-foot range also. So just give you an example there.
I get that. I can see it, and I drive that intersection 3 or 4 times a week. So I get it. I just don't like it.
And also the size of some of the signs along the freeway are twice as high.
I don't like them either, but I wasn't on the commission when they went in.
So, and when we did the flag test, and Maddie was there, we actually drove on the freeway, and this was about the height that you could just see as you're getting off at Oak Glen Road, and you're heading eastbound, and you're on the off-ramp.
I get it.
And so, because we're down in a hole, and But also, and I was wondering, Chairman Algar, if I could revisit the retaining wall, I mean, the wall against the north property line for a minute. For both the neighboring residential areas and our project, as far as the 10-foot wall, I may propose a 4-foot with a 2-to-1 slope and a 6-foot. You're still gonna get your height, but I think we also have to get a variance for any 10-foot walls. I'm not sure, but I'm just thinking if we added that separation, get more landscaping, it'd be better looking for the neighbors to the north instead of the Great Wall of China that we would have as a 10-foot wall. Just a suggestion, that's all.
Well, my question would be, who's gonna maintain that on the backside of that slope, for one, on the backside? Because if you're running a 2-to-1 off the property lines, then you've got a maintenance issue on that side and a trash issue between those properties.
A lot of times
As far as a variance, you already have, we're looking at a 10-foot wall, so the only thing we're looking at is extending a 10-foot wall that you're asking for. So I don't think that's an issue. I understand the elevation and where I will disagree a little bit with Donna. One of my concerns is to make sure that the last thing I want to see is a project that's built that becomes a crappy project, excuse my French, because it's not profitable and it's not successful. So I understand from that side the signage is important.
Absolutely.
And the positioning of the sign, I know there's some concern from the residents of seeing the sign, but the sign's gonna be facing both ways of the street. So it's not turned to face the residents where they're gonna get the glare off of it. And with LED lighting, you don't have that lighting problem that you used to have with signs so much. So, and then if you take position of the sign in relation to the building that's 27 feet behind it and the slope and a 10-foot wall, I don't see the sign as being a problem for the residents in the back. I understand Donna's concern, or Commissioner Snodgrass's concern, that what we're looking like when we're going down the street. But I do want to be able to pull traffic off that intersection when they get off the freeway and continue on down to your business so that you have a successful business, so.
Commissioner Hicks, would you mind if we looked at the landscape plan or one more time? I just wanted to also clarify the buffer that we have. We have a very good distance between the residents. We took great pains at trying to get the buildings put at a location and landscape buffer that's very heavy. And so with that wall, it'll be a nice addition. So just
Well,
With which wall? I'm sorry.
that north wall
Yeah.
that you had brought up.
Yeah.
Were we still, because earlier in the discussion, we talked about a 6-foot wall with
On
berm.
top of.
Is that still?
We gotta talk to the microphone.
Earlier in the discussion, we talked about a 6-foot wall with a berm. Is
Yes.
that still open for discussion? Because we would much prefer that than the 10-foot wall.
Well, I understand that, but then, just talking through it a little bit more, who's gonna maintain that backside of the wall and what are we gonna do?
The berm will be on our side, so
Well, I
it will be
know.
a 6-foot wall with our berm. So it would go into our landscape area that we're maintaining as well.
Yeah, because that berm in the back, I think, is gonna be like dead man's zone and ends up as a homeless camp, is my worry. So, just thinking that through a little bit more. I know it's an expense, guys, I really do. I think on the overall project, though, and for the existing residences there, that's, in my opinion, that's just a trade-off that you're gonna have to,
Yeah. It just,
to me, that'll get you this, the sign in the project.
Yeah. Well, and again, my background looking at landscape plans is we see a mature, built-out landscape.
Right.
And reality is you're planting 15, 30-gallon plants that are going to take years to mature.
Yeah.
And for it to become a beneficial sound barrier for residents, is 10 years down the road, maybe 15 years down the road. So I concur with my fellow commissioners that in the long run, yeah, I love looking at landscape plans, and I work with landscape architects all the time, that this is the eventual build out, and it will benefit the neighbors and provide the screening and that sound, but it's gonna take years to achieve that. And buying a $2,000, $3,000 tree to plant there is probably far more than building a 10-foot wall. I'm not opposed to looking at berms and that, but I also agree with Commissioner Hicks that we don't want to create more maintenance for you that will, you know, maybe something that we invest in the future or invest now is going to be more beneficial, cost-effective to you as a developer, just to get this through and get it approved, and then the neighbors are amicable to that.
Yeah. Just wanted to add one thing too. Along with the cost, which you guys are correct, the 10-foot wall would be a significant
expensive.
added cost to us. But also, that backside of Fremont is actually commercial. Fairmont is all commercial real estate, and a lot of it is going up for sale. We actually had thought of expanding into Fairmont right behind our house, right behind our property, and to extend it. So that's what also we were hoping for, is a lot of those properties are up for sale, that by putting that divider, future businesses and future developments on Fairmont now are divided by this 10-foot wall. But I understand the case with the current residents is there, so we don't mind it, but it was an overall bigger picture too than just the added cost that we were looking for.
Well, let me ask you a question, Ben, on this. Could we come back, approve it with a 10-foot wall or a suitable barrier for the sound and for visibility? Not landscape, because like I said, that's 15 years down the road.
Absolutely.
But give them a chance to come up with an alternative
So, as part of the
as
initial.
part of the landscape review.
So as part of the discussion, kind of listening in, was that the planning condition, or the added condition of approval would essentially specify a wall that the top of the wall would be at that 10-foot above the elevation shown currently on the plans. And so there may be some ways to modify the grading and other stuff, so that the only thing that it sounds like that really is the most important is what is that elevation of top of wall. And so as long as I think that's the condition, and then that we coordinate whatever maintenance and other obligations as part of that as well, I think would give them the ability to think creatively of how do they modify the grade. And so really it's just the line of sight when you're looking at the grade elevation, you're at that location. And I think that would be my suggestion for the condition, to give the flexibility, but essentially still provide that screening at that elevation as well.
Because looking at the plans right now, I can't tell what the relationship is between the existing residences and the station and the wall. So I think that's a good ideal, is we come up with a way, and maybe, well, as you said.
We could pass that off to staff to, as a, you know.
Yeah, I think if we want to be able to provide the screen up to 10 feet of where we're at, as long as that's the condition, then I think we can work with the applicant to find the combination of, maybe it is a combination of walls or something like that gets to there in a way that makes
To a
sense. as well.
10-foot equivalent.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd be good for that.
So can you write that condition down that you just quoted real quick?
I'll be out
I can.
with the back wall elevation raised to a 10-foot equivalent.
Yep.
And then last comment about the sign, we are the only spot that's gonna have charging in the city too. Electric charging, 20 Tesla stations with 2 canopies of full solar. So it is gonna be like next level kind of site. There's no site like this in Yucaipa. So the signage, I mean, that canopy will be like that with the Tesla logo. We want Tesla logo on our big sign as well. So that attracts to the property, you know.
We don't like Teslas either.
Oh, come on. You're gonna come, you're gonna have.
We're a gas station with more Tesla chargers.
Yeah.
You know, that's
We don't
the
like
wave
it as
of the
much as you do.
future, right?
I don't think so.
And I
think
would,
it's a
I would
flash in the pan.
probably look at, and I've done a number of marquee signs in my career. 46 foot is not tall. It seems
No.
tall, Commissioner Snodgrass, but it's not that tall. So
tall
when it's
enough to be
built,
ugly.
I know, I realize that. I have seen marquee signs up to 100, 150 feet
I have
tall.
two. I don't like
So,
them either.
I agree. So I think this height of the
Unless I'm in
sign is-
Vegas and it's nighttime.
So I think it's from a standpoint, when you see a 46-foot high, you're going, wow, we should have went taller with that. So, but that's me. So,
Yeah.
So
All right, well, I think we beat it up enough.
I think we have. Thank you so much for bearing with us.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move to discussions amongst the commissioners, or do we have a motion of some sort?
Well, I think we've probably said it all.
I think we
And
have.
I will make a motion that probably won't get a second, but I'll move the project with the 10-foot equivalent wall and a redesign of the sign.
Do what? I'm sorry.
I'll move
To
the
redesign it.
architectural with the wall being raised to a 10-foot equivalent
Right.
and redesign the sign. It'll have to come back for approval for the sign redesign, I'm assuming.
That sounds like that's the motion. So if there's a second, then you guys can vote on that, or an alternative motion to be provided as well.
I would make a motion that we approve the project with the condition of the alternative 10-foot barrier between the north properties and the project,
And then the hours of operation for the car wash as well.
and the hours of operation, absolutely.
Okay, do we have a motion on that? We have a second on?
I'll second.
Okay, now we have a motion with the second. Okay, so all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes. And all those opposed?
No.
We got 1 no. Okay, project approves with those conditions.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, really. Okay, next item on the agenda, case 23-021, a special use permit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair Algauer and Commissioners. Today I bring before you case number 23-021, a special use permit for the architectural review of an unpermitted 1,485 square foot and 15-foot tall metal patio cover located at the rear of a single residential property located at 12383 12th Street. And it is located on a 2.8 acre parcel within the RS20M land use district. It is immediately surrounded by similar single-family residential uses and is adjacent to the Dunlap Elementary School. It is proposed to provide an entertainment and storage area for the applicant and is identified as unpermitted construction by code enforcement and is only partially constructed at this point. The site is currently improved with a 2-story home that provides 1,984 square feet of habitable living space. The unpermitted structure itself is 1,485 feet and fits within all RS setbacks and is located behind the residence and about 134 feet from the property line. The elevations are proposed to imitate a monitor barn, which I've pictured on the screen. It is a 2-tiered roof, with the first having a peak height of 10 feet and the second with a peak height of 15 feet. It's open on all sides and includes black metal framing and a roof that was originally black that the applicant has worked with staff to paint a light brown to better match the primary residence. The existing structure and its kind of partially constructed state can be seen here. Here are some site photos of the existing residence and of the site. As a part of the project, we noticed all surrounding property owners and no responses were received. And so it is staff's recommendation that you review the architectural design of the existing unpermitted structure and, if acceptable, approve the design of the accessory structure subject to the conditions of approval, adopt the special use permit findings as contained in the agenda report, adopt a categorical exemption, and direct staff to file a notice of exemption. The applicant is here and staff is here if you guys have any questions.
Okay, Commissioner, have questions for staff at this time?
I think I read someplace that they had been cited. Have they been fined? Have they paid any fines on this?
So I know that they have received monetary citations. I'm not sure where in the process that is.
Okay, if we approve this tonight, will those citations be voided or reversed?
So that normally is not the process. The code enforcement citation process involves kind of multiple steps before it is issued the first fine. And so when, let's say a project is in code enforcement, they'll receive first kind of a notice of violation, notice just saying, hey, you guys are doing something that's in violation of the municipal code or the development code. Reach out to us, we'd resolve it. If there's no response provided after that, then the second step is where they receive kind of the official warning saying, hey, if you don't come and try to resolve this, then that's when you get fines. And then after that is when the first monetary fine comes through. And so normally the way the code enforcement process works is if they receive a citation, be it whether or not they're at fines or not, once they reach out to planning saying, hey, we're going to try to resolve this, we're submitting the plans, we're developing this and create kind of the timeline, then at that time, all the code enforcement citations stop, but no actions move forward because they're making the good faith effort. And so usually there's that kind of lag. If there was a fine, then it probably means that there wasn't a response at the initial step and then it eventually got there. And so that's usually the process for the code enforcement
Okay.
citation.
Where are we in the process, I guess is my question.
I'm not familiar with exactly what the timelines were with this code case. At this point right now, the project at hand is the special use permit for the design itself. It isn't, they haven't submitted a request for administrative hearing for the code enforcement citation itself. So it's right now the purview of the Planning Commission is the architecture of this project.
Is the what?
The architecture of this project.
Okay. I love the architecture.
Okay, other?
I think I'm going to use this as a platform as an architect because I'm involved with a lot of code enforcement projects within the city and numerous cities that this has become more and more of an ongoing issue with public awareness of the permitting process. So we're asked as a commission to approve something after the fact. And the more I guess we allow the public to bring these to us to ask for forgiveness rather than permission, I think it's a public awareness to the city. And Ben and I have talked about this. We've talked about increasing the public awareness of the permitting process and what the public needs to perceive as what the proper procedure is. So we're not, as a commission, being asked to approve something after the fact. It's a financial impact on the owner. It's a financial impact on everybody to try and approve something after it's put in. And if we continue to do this, we continue to allow this, the public just continues to do this. And so it's something in 40 years as being an architect, I'm passionate about setting some kind of precedence or some kind of public awareness campaign to educate the public about the importance of permitting things so we don't deal with these things in a manner that's going to cost a client money to tear something down and redo it or we're paying extra engineering to do it. So I do have some questions of the applicant. It's more for my professional benefit to ask those questions. I think the project is fine. The project fits within the planning parameters. So those, my questions will be of that. So I'm going to using this as a platform, forgive me, I'm just kind of being kind of an advocate for proper process. And that's probably the drawback of having an architect on the planning commission. But again, that's just my platform, and Ben has been open to doing that. The city is open to have that public awareness of what we need to do to make sure that we give our citizens in this community the benefit of our knowledge and our expertise to make sure they do it right.
Okay, with that, is the applicant here wish to make a?
Can I speak on her behalf? We're married, it's my wife.
Yes.
She gets nervous.
Don't feel nervous.
That's what I said.
We're all citizens here.
Just state your name and address for our records, please.
My name is Jose Ponce. I'm sorry? Oh, the address, 123. We own two properties on that street, so, we had three? Oh, 12th Street.
Okay.
So, to answer, to touch on the reason why the structure was built without the permits, we were in the middle of getting married, and we wanted to have the party in the back of the yard for that wedding. And this was during COVID time, so I know that she had reached out. She tried to somehow, I don't know what was going on with the city, but they weren't moving fast enough for us. So we unfortunately moved forward. We didn't finish the entire project. We just basically left the roof off, and it's been sitting there for what, about maybe 2 years now. I think it is, maybe a little bit longer than 2 years. But we did get plans done on the actual structure. We did get an engineer who's a good friend of mine to check it all out before we move forward. But we didn't finalize it. And I think you were asking something about a fine. Originally, there was a storage bin on the property that was removed. So we removed that, and the fine was paid for. That was outstanding on that. I think it was like $5,000 or something like that.
But that was for the storage bin, right?
For the storage bin, that's correct.
I'm concerned if there were any fines on this structure.
No, not that I'm aware of. Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do.
Go for it.
I'm sorry, I'm going to do this. So again, as far as a continuance of, and you may or may not be to answer this, as far as the, when I look at a structure like this is not simply putting a tough shed on a property. This is a pretty significant structure on your property. And this is part of it, from a public awareness standpoint and from a citizen standpoint. You hired an engineer, and they provided a set of plans to you. And maybe for my benefit, was there advisement to permit this project or not?
Yes, absolutely.
And it was during a time that you were getting married or whatever, going through whatever
Yeah, it was just
situation.
a lot of things, yeah.
And again, that's fine. We're here from a planning standpoint to approve the project. Is the purpose of this project to be an open structure? Because I saw renderings of it being a barn type structure.
Yeah, it's going to be all open.
It's all going to be open, so it's not going to look like this.
No.
Okay.
So, sorry, just to note,
It was just kind of an example.
that is kind of the
Christian.
roof line of the monitor barn that they're
Right,
kind of
okay.
accumulating here. It's open on all sides.
So it's more of an open patio like the
Correct,
planning
exactly.
report says.
That is correct.
Okay, so, and that's fine. It doesn't, from my standpoint, doesn't concern me what you're used for. I think your biggest challenge is getting it approved from a building and safety standpoint.
yeah.
Because it was designed to 2019 codes, and we're
Yeah.
now into a 2022 code cycle. So that's not my purview, that's not this commission's purview. So I'm fine with that. Again, I go on the platform of wanting to make sure that we work with our community to make sure that they understand the permitting process. We make it as streamlined and easy. This city, and I work with numerous cities, is probably the most pleasant to work with and the easiest to work with from a building and a planning and engineering. I live in this community, I'm passionate about this community.
Absolutely.
But I'm not biased. I think this is probably one of the best communities to work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a permitting and planning process. So I would encourage that. We're going to work with you. I think I speak for my fellow commissioners. We want to work with you.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just using it as my own platform. I'm sorry, yes?
The Fishman truck, whoever has a license plate, I can't get in my car. You park so close to my door.
That's me. I'm sorry. I parked there earlier? Oh, well, my apologies. Give me about 5 minutes, okay? Wow, I feel really bad now. I'll hurry up. So that's my platform.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. And just
if
to
you wanna
touch on
give me
that.
like 2 minutes, let me go move my car for this gentleman.
Let's finish this real quick.
Okay, very good. Sorry.
So
that's fine. I'm fine.
yeah, 100%. So I'm a real estate broker. I flip properties. This is what I've been doing for about 20 years. You know, I get permits. I deal with cities back and forth. I've heard nothing but great things about the city of Yucaipa. In fact, the gentleman that has been doing, the architect and the engineer has done a lot of business with the city of Yucaipa. And he's said nothing but great things. It was not that we were trying to be sneaky or anything. We were on a timeline. It was during COVID, right? We just had a lot of things going on, and it's no excuses. I know the process. I know what should have been done.
Okay.
And, you know,
And again,
whatever needs to be paid,
yeah.
we'll definitely pay it. I mean, it is what it is.
Okay, and I appreciate that. So
Of course, absolutely.
Thank you for
I
letting me
appreciate
speak.
you guys.
So.
We have any public comments?
No public comments on this item.
Okay, and then with that, we'll close the public hearing and move to the commissioners. We have a motion?
I'll move the project as submitted.
I'll second.
And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4 ayes. And we'll take a quick moment pause
Let me
here.
go move my car.
Somebody's got to go by the door.
Yeah, we got another, we got one more to go.
Okay, let me go move my car. Give me about 5
Guys,
We'll be here.
so we're adjourned. No. What do you want me to do?
Hope you don't have a ticket.
Yeah.
We'll call the police and they can issue.
Yeah, we got that big 40-foot container moved over there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we got that there. And we took the other two and we made a, you know, a horseshoe. Okay, Commissioner, we ready? Let's re-adjourn. And after re-adjourning here, we're moving to case number 23-033, to demolish an existing structure.
Thank you, Honorable Chair Algauer and Planning Commissioners. Today I'm bringing before you case number 23-033, a planning use permit to demolish the existing structures and to construct a 4,975 square foot metal building separated into two roughly 2,500 square foot spaces for office and warehouse, and an associated contractor's yard located at 32371 Dunlap Boulevard. The site is located on a 1.1 acre parcel on the south side of Dunlap Boulevard. It is a relatively flat lot, and it is currently improved with a mixture of legal, non-conforming uses, including 2 residences, which have been both used as a residence and an office, and a variety of unpermitted structures by the prior owner, with a construction yard in the rear. And it is located within our CS land use district, or our service commercial land use district. The planning use permit is for the applicant Extreme Plates, who outgrew their previous location at the city's incubator center and chose a new site at the beginning of this year. Initially, they were hoping to use some of the existing structures on site, but after preliminary review determined that it would be best to demolish the existing structures to construct a new central 4,900 square foot office and warehouse facility, with half of the building being dedicated to an open space office use and the other half being dedicated to house and shop use, with the rear of the site being continued as that construction yard. They are providing 14 spaces, or one more than the required 13 parking spaces. And their operations include the storage, delivery, and maintenance of construction shaker plates and the associated office use. The applicant has indicated that they have very few in-person customers, but they do have roughly 10 employees who will utilize the site, with hours of operation from 5:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The design is inspired by some of the existing enhanced metal buildings along the I-10 freeway, such as Golden State Glazing, Hillwood Goodrow office, and the Markarian Law office, and is proposed to be painted a cocoa brown with burnished slate roof, and will include Orco split-face block masonry wainscot along the bottom 3.5 feet, with a gabled roof with metal awnings along the perimeter of the building to provide some enhanced viewscapes. The entry will feature rough sawn wood beams, with the bottom 3.5 feet again having that Orco split face block for a more grand entrance, or well-designed entrance. As a part of the project, they will include landscaping around the perimeter with 3 maple trees along the rear to kind of tie in with the color of their business. And Timeless Beauty Desert Willow along Dunlap Boulevard. They'll include a landscape detention basin along the rear corner and perimeter plantings to provide separation between the uses. As a part of the project review, notices were sent to all neighbors within 300 feet of the project. Only 1 phone call was received as a part of that, requesting clarification on the exact location and scope of work of the project, after which the caller ultimately voiced support for the project. Pursuant to the CEQA guidelines, this project qualifies for a Class 1, Class 3, and Class 32 categorical exemptions, as it is existing facilities and includes an addition of less than 10,000 square feet. Considered small construction, as it is again less than that 10,000 square feet, and it is on a site less than 5 acres in size and surrounded by similar development styles. It's surrounded to the kind of sideways. So to the south, it's got a similar construction yard type use. Across the street, project you guys just heard last week, Hal Hayes Construction Yard is there as well. And then to the kind of northeast, as a conforming residence with the I-10 freeway bordering the kind of southeast. Here are some photos of the existing structures on site. And it is staff's recommendation that you approve the planning use permit subject to the conditions of approval, adopt the findings, adopt the categorical exemptions subject to class 32, 3, and 1, and direct staff to file exemption. I am here as well as the project's representative if you guys have any questions.
Okay, with that, do you have any questions for
I
staff?
just, is this the same company we approved a project for last year?
Unfortunately, yeah, there was that site somewhat fell through for the applicant,
Okay.
and they moved forward with this site.
Okay.
Yeah, they had some difficulties with the property owner and I think some of the escrow terms, and so ultimately did not move forward on that site.
It's a better location for them.
And then on that east-north side of the project, that's residents?
Non-conforming residence, correct, yes.
Okay, what kind of wall are we putting up there?
So they have a perimeter chain link fence. This is a continued use. The existing use was a construction yard.
Okay,
As a part of the project noticing, there were no concerns from the neighbors and no reason to believe that there will be excessive noise. The applicant is currently using the site for kind of similar operations with the storage yard in the back. They're just kind of proposing to have a unified office and workhouse type structure. They've been there since January, beginning of this year.
okay, that sounds good to me, thank you. Okay, with that, did the applicants, respective bowl, that you? I guess you're his.
Yes, Chairman Algauer, members of the Planning Commission, Brad Robertson, on behalf of Crindy LLC. Also Extreme Plates, local business, very local mom and pop, and they'd like to develop this property. So our first program with this was to get the temporary use permit for the modular building that they have set at the rear, and now going through Planning Commission for the proposed building, and then also working with staff on the demolition permits for the existing house and garage that are currently in the location where the proposed building is going. Any questions you may have? I'm happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant's representative?
Well, not a question, but again, I would support my fellow commissioners on the fact that somebody is coming in and trying to improve a property that has consistently been unpermitted and maybe disjointed. It's a great project, and I really kind of affirm the owner and the developer to improve this property to make it a viable business. And as they continue on and whether they continue, it's going to become an attractive property. And so I just wanted as a commissioner to affirm that I am totally in favor of this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Higginson. Appreciate that.
Okay, so with an approval on there would be more business are gonna flourish a little more. Am I correct?
I believe so. Their business will flourish with the freeway corridor.
And then again, trying to take both sides of the fence here, being the city and the public fence, I still think that chain link fence over there is, I mean, there should be something might be able to do. They may not be complaining, most residents don't, but I think, their behalf, I mean, for them to look over at what's construction yard and everything else, I think some kind of landscaping, blocking it would be sufficient, but I think something should be there so they don't have to look over at that yard.
Could we pull up the landscape plan, please, Christian? Chairman Algauer, we do have a landscape buffer, and it's absolutely there to help us, so we don't have to look over at the property just to that side, to the north. It's unsightly. But I agree with you. So we did buffer it with a 5-foot setback and landscaping along. A block wall is very costly, and my client
No,
has.
I would not propose you to do a block wall by no means.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, so my question is, and this is in kind of respect to your question, Chairman Algauer, as far as the maturity of the landscaping, and I always go back on that because I know when we plant a 5-gallon tree, it takes 10 years for it to become significant. So is there some kind of a preliminary landscape plan that identified the minimum plant size on that, Christian?
Probably 5-gallon.
So we don't have
A minimum?
necessarily that shown on the conceptual landscape plan. They just identify the plant palettes, and that's
Okay.
what our contract landscape architect prefers it to be in that degree. However, in the conditional for the project, we do have a standard condition that identifies what the mixture should be of the different plants. So, you know, the mixture of 5-gallon, 10-gallon, and box trees, and what that threshold should be based on the square footage of landscape area.
Okay, and again, it's just in consideration of Chairman Algauer's concerns, and I share that concern too. So if there is some level of minimum standards for that landscaping, I would support that.
It's an option too that we've done recently, it's a 2x2 steel tube with holes drilled through it in the cable, so we could do a vine, a quick growing vine that would go from the chain link up above. And then you would almost get, at that point, you could get 8 of screening, and it's economical and it's quick. Twining vines of sorts that grow quickly.
I'm okay. I think that's better than what they're looking at now.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I would
Yes.
support that. Again, I think it's just in consideration of that neighbor, but they are improved property, and I'm hoping that's kind of a trend that will continue on to the adjacent properties and promoting that business corridor. So.
And if I may add to the applicant representative's comment, doing something like that with a vine, something like a bougainvillea where you have kind of the thorns may also provide a level of kind of passive security for the site as well. And so that may be a functional benefit for the applicant.
It works both ways.
Big
yes.
thorns.
Yeah.
So if we could put that, we'll kind of keep that in mind. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, with that, let's, do you have any public comments?
No public comments.
No public comments, huh? Okay, with that, we'll close the hearing and move to my lovely commissioners. And start down at my far left, the most.
Yeah, you're lovely.
To my left, the beautiful young lady. You're first, Peggy. What do you have? Anything? Tony?
No, I'm fine.
Nothing. So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Make the motion.
I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And are we gonna put in something about them vines or?
I will make a motion, I will amend my motion to approve with a condition to add the additional leaping requirement.
Okay, great. And that second good with that?
I'm good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? So. We got 4. We're good.
We're almighty for tonight, so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir. You got your project.
Thank you.
With that, Ben, do you have any for us?
So I do have an announcement. So I did want to introduce the person to the right is Michael Ryder. He is our new assistant city attorney.
I was wondering who that was.
And so he'll be providing kind of the legal support. So if we do have legal questions that come about on our proceedings,
He's the new commentary guy, right?
Yeah, welcome.
he'll be. And so did want to say that. And then we won't have a meeting in July, so you guys get a small reprieve. I think with the holidays the summer break, City Council does their summer break during July, so we tried to have tonight's meeting to help kind of bridge that gap. And then most likely we'll have a subsequent meeting on August 2nd. And so, but we'll let you guys know as we get closer, but have a wonderful 4th of July celebration. Stay safe. Don't end up in the ER with missing fingers.
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I got.
Thank you, staff.
Okay, with that, meeting adjourned.